Confessions of an Accountant, where no topic is off the ledger.
Today, I would like to talk about how amazing and exciting the accounting and bookkeeping profession is. However, I do want to talk about that, and I will be talking about that. However, we have seen some really frustrating things happen over the past 5, 3, 2 years. All right. So what we've seen come along is AI and automation. And you will, if you're on LinkedIn at all, you'll know that everywhere you look, it's AI is taking over. We've even had one gentleman create an AI only accounting firm, and that's causing some ripples in the profession. But there is a lot of talk out there how accountants and bookkeepers are not going to be relevant in the next sort of 5 to 10 years or even sooner. So there's this force that is feeling pushed upon you where you're starting to question, and those who were looking to come into the profession are starting to question whether or not this is a profession worth pursuing and whether or not you're going to stand the test of time. And my answer is absolutely 100% you are. And I'm going to be sharing with you today how that will happen. But we've got automation and AI. We've got the fact that you are becoming more and more commoditized because the world has become more digital. What we have found is that you can work much faster. You can allocate things quicker. You can consolidate things quicker. You can answer people quicker. Your clients can get involved in helping you do the books better by using tools like Dext, for example. Now, we know that these tools have been around for 10 years, but it has meant that clients start to question where is the value with the accountant and bookkeeper. So this is another force that is happening. Now, you and I know that that's not true. We know that a business owner cannot do their own books. We know that it's aided by digital, but we know that you need to be looking at it, understanding it, and doing it. But the business owners don't know that. So you've got another thing that is putting this force on you, coupled with the AI. It's meaning that you're more commoditized than you've ever been. And then we've got things like offshoring and outsourcing, and this is happening quite a lot. And I don't think it's a negative, but it is having a negative impact on businesses, especially here in the UK and in the States, where you're offshoring and outsourcing, which means that instead of hiring internally, you can get an accountant or bookkeeper for a third of the price of what you would do if you hired them internally, right? And what this means is this is an added pressure on you, and it's commoditizing you even more. It's driving your prices down, and the business owners are not seeing the value. We used to have Dave down the pub. Now we have Claude, right? They'd go down to the pub. They'd ask Dave, hey, give me some advice on my business. And Dave would give that advice. Now we're seeing that Claude has become the new Dave down the pub. So what I'd like to talk to you about today is how to make sure that in spite of everything that's happening that we can't control, we control our accounting and bookkeeping practices. And I know that there's a few of you on here that run IT or IFA businesses. That's absolutely fine. This is still very, very relevant for what I'm sharing about how we can then make sure that we future-proof ourselves in a world of AI and commoditization. All right, so that's what I'm going to be sharing today. If it sounds like you're interested in that, then stay here. Okay, I will be 25 minutes. That's it. That's the amount of time that I've got. Oh, the other thing as well is please put questions in the chat box as I'm going through. And if you want to wait, you can. But if you put questions in, I will keep an eye. I'm used to running webinars, so I'll keep an eye on any questions. Or Donna or Al, just interrupt me if you want to. That's absolutely fine. No worries at all. All right. So, can everybody see my screen? Is that you can see that? Yeah, brilliant. So I have put together a few slides. They have been put together slightly rushed because I ran out of time because I had an event last Friday that I was prepping for, which Ross was at. And that has been my number one thing I wanted to get sorted. But I have been building this in between, as I was saying to Donna, every time I made a cup of tea, I went and did a slide and got my thinking right. And actually, that's something that is really important of always have pen and paper with you guys and girls, because your best thinking is when you're not working. So don't forget to do that. And what I'm talking about today will need you to do that kind of thing. So what will stop you from being irrelevant and dispensable? Now, we know that HMRC will want you to be making sure that businesses are compliant. However, we need to make sure that business owners know that we aren't irrelevant and dispensable, and that they value us and they pay us handsomely for our services. Now, we can't expect these business owners out there to understand our value without us portraying our value. We can't go, hey, we're accountants, and buy my stuff and hope that they see the value, because right now they're really angry. We're watching people leave the UK faster than rats on a sinking ship, right? So we really need to understand that it's our responsibility as accountants and bookkeepers to educate our audience so that they can see our value. So what I'm going to be talking about today are two things. It's the castle and a moat. And I'm going to be explaining and extrapolating out why these two things are the things that will stop you from having AI, commoditization, offshoring and outsourcing, destroying your business. So the castle is what we call a productized practice model. And that's what Ross alluded to a moment ago. That's what I have been helping him and my other clients build. Now, I'll go into more depth in a moment. The moat is the depth of relationship that you have with your clients. Okay, these things are the two things that you need to have to make sure that you stand the test of AI. So your way of showing up needs to be with in mind, first and foremost, something formed in relationships. I call this the relationship economy. I've been writing a book about this. Donna, if you're happy, I'll drop a link so people can pre-register to get a copy of it if they want to, if they haven't got it already. But the relationship economy is the productized business model and the depth of your relationship with the moat, the castle and the moat. So the castle looks like this, right? I talk about having a monster business and then a freedom practice, and the freedom practice is productized. The monster business is your typical compliance practice. Now, your typical compliance practice years ago was highly valued by your clients. It's not highly valued anymore, sadly. And this has meant that your profits are squeezed. Your pricing is like a race to the bottom. You don't have any free time. I was speaking to someone earlier today, and they were telling me how they would like to do more advisory, but actually they don't have time. They need to hire someone, but they don't have the time to do that. And what that means is that you're overworked and underpaid, or you're overworked and not doing the work that you want to enjoy. And it means that your capacity to scale isn't there. Now, client quality, you might have good clients, but they feel like bad quality clients because they're not paying you. And that then gets, that kind of affects your emotional system, the way that you feel. So you start to resent your clients because they're not paying you enough, because you've done them a favor, you've priced really well for them, but you haven't priced for you. And this is where we start to call them vampire clients, okay? Because they start to suck your energy and enjoyment. So this is the monster business that you're building, and you have no control over your calendar because MTD is kicking in. That will start controlling your calendar. You've got year end that controls your calendar, all of these things. So what I talk about is the castle, which is your productized practice model, which means that you can have high profits. Your pricing will be high because you'll be providing more value. We don't just go, oh, I'm going to charge thousands of pounds. We go, let's uncover the value, and then we're going to start charging our value. I like to kind of dispel the myth of charging your worth, because worth is subjective. So I might value you more than you value you, and you're not charging enough because you don't feel valuable, but actually what you're providing is really important. So we make this a brain decision when we look at pricing. Your free time goes up because you have higher revenue clients and fewer you have fewer of them, and your capacity to scale goes up. And I'll share how to do that in a moment, because you can actually leverage your thinking, not your time. Okay, well, you can leverage your time, but we're leveraging your thinking. You start to enjoy working with clients because you make an impact. So one of the programs that I run, a gentleman told me, his name's Umair, he told me 2 weeks ago, he said, I got him to write down his bucket list of all the things that he wanted to achieve. That's one of the first things I get my clients to do. And he wrote down that he wanted to go to South Africa on a safari with his family. Never thought he would make it possible. This was back in January, February. He wrote this down. A couple of weeks ago, he said to me, I wrote it down. I realized I really wanted to do it. I've booked the holiday. Amanda, I'm not going to be around for 3 weeks because I've actually just realized something on my bucket list that I didn't even think would ever be possible. And that's just the magic of writing it down, right? So that actually, I cried on the call when he told me, because we go into business, don't we? Because we want to help people. We don't just go into business to make money for ourselves. And I realized that the impact of what I do is always so much bigger than, hey, we're going to productize what you do, right? So the client quality and your energy and enjoyment goes through the roof when you start to make an impact on something other than your books balance. We're going to submit your books at the end of the year, right? And then the other thing is control over calendar. So I only work 6 hours a week with clients. I have 3 2-hour calls every single week, which is amazing. What I would say is that those clients of mine that really go all in on advisory, reduce the hours that they work, they get their life back. They finish work at 3 o'clock, they have Fridays off. That kind of way of living is done purposefully. If you have the monster business, you're reactive. Okay, so this is the shift, and I'm going to share with you what the productized practice looks like. The reason why we call it a castle, okay, so we've got the castle and we've got the depth of the moat. The reason why we call it a castle is because you are visible out there on the landscape when you have this productized practice, okay? People can see it from miles away. It announces itself and people go, oh my gosh, look at that. That's interesting. I want to go and have a look around. Then we've got solidity, and your productized practice is built on a very solid structure and stands the test of time. So it doesn't matter what AI throws at you. It doesn't matter what the commoditization and the offshoring and the outsourcing or anything else that comes along. It's going to stand the test of time because it is very, very well formed with very strong foundations and structure. Then we've got territory, and territory is very important because with a castle, it stakes a claim. All right. Whenever you see a castle, there was a king or a queen that lived in it. They owned that land. That was theirs. And all the people around them all looked to the people in the castle, as long as they were nice kings and queens, right? We have to be nice. As long as they were nice kings and queens, they looked at them and went, oh my gosh, you are amazing. And this is what we want our business to do. We don't want to be invisible. We don't want to not have a territory that we own. This is like niching with a way that you help people. And my views on niching have changed a lot in the past couple of years. You don't necessarily have to niche with an industry. You can niche on transformation, but when you niche on industry and transformation, that makes your life very easy. But you can be slightly more relaxed on your niching. So a castle has visibility, solidity, territory, and then authority. This is what I mean about the king or the queen. And I talk about a category king or a category queen. And historically, what we found with castles is they signaled power, and people knew who lived there, what they stood for, and fingers crossed, if they were nice kings and queens, they would look up to them and go, we're going to listen to you. We're going to come to you. We've got problems. Please, can you help us? Your castle does the same. It positions you as the authority in your space. So this is the importance of the castle. Now, all of this doesn't really matter if you don't get on well with your clients, right? You don't have that depth of relationship. So your castle is where we productize your practice, and the relationship is how we keep clients it helps us get clients and helps us keep clients as well. So when I talk about your castle, though, I am talking about moving into advisory, because you can't have depth of relationship if you are just doing compliance work. All right. You can help them. You can speak to them once a year. Maybe you speak to them once a quarter, but you don't have that depth of relationship where you know who they are, what's going on in their business. You're not helping them and guiding them and being there for them and being their support. I talk a lot about how business coaches are stealing your advisory clients. If you are just doing compliance work, business coaches are getting from your compliance clients a lot of money and are stealing that money from you, money that you deserve to get, right? So we do have to go, if this is going to work, the only way to AI proof yourself is to move into a relationship-based way of working with people. And that is important for your advisory work. So custom advisory is what the majority of you are doing if you're currently doing advisory. So every engagement's different. It's reactive. So they'll ask you a question, you'll answer. You're not leading the relationship. Everything that you know is in your head, but your clients have to ask you the questions to get it out, or you have to stumble across what's in your head just because you've decided to sit down and talk to a client for half an hour, okay? What that means is every time you're doing custom advisory, you're starting from zero with your thinking, and they might ask you a question, you'll go, oh, actually, I'll have to go and find the answer to that. And it can't be scaled, and it can't be taught to your clients, and it can't be taught to your team. So anyone who's got a big team that wants them to do any advisory work, they can't, because it's all in your head. And that's why people go, oh, advisory can't be scalable. And that's because it's in your head. But if we can get it out of your head and we make sure that every single person that you work with has a methodology that they work their way through, and actually your expertise lives in your intellectual property that we turn into, as I was talking about today, a book, for example, right? We can take that, we can turn it into a book, we can turn it into advisory programs, we can turn it into digital courses, we can turn it into memberships and masterminds and all these different things. It enables us to scale advisory, and that's how you work 10 hours a week or less in client delivery. And it's absolutely amazing, but none of us have the time to sit down and do it and don't put it as a priority. So you have to make sure that you make it a priority if you want to get yourself out of the compliance hamster wheel that I talk about. So the journey really that the majority of you are going on is compliance to custom advisory, and then feeling stuck because you don't have time, and you go back to the compliance because it gives you that revenue coming in and that safety and that feeling of like, actually, I just need to do the compliance work because that's my bread and butter. And every time you do advisory, you have to think so much and it's cognitive overload. And you're like, I'm going back to compliance because it's easier. What we want to do is go compliance. You've done custom advisory, given it away for free, probably. And we now need to move you onto the productized practice model, which means that you will never want to go back to compliance again. Or if you do compliance, it's in a much different way because it supports your productized advisory model. Okay, so that's your castle, and that's what we're looking at. So if I give you an example of what this would look like, the productized advisory model always starts with what we call a signature system. And your signature system is understanding where your ideal clients' pains are, what are the things that are keeping them up at night, their fears, their frustrations, their wants, their aspirations. By the way, they're not laying awake at night going, oh my gosh, I've got cash flow problems. They're not thinking that. The language they're using is, I don't have enough money to pay my team, or I can't pay my mortgage next month. So we need to make sure that we are, oh my gosh, my phone's going on. Hold on. Sorry. Should have put that on pause. So what we need to do is 100% make sure that we're using the right language and understanding your client's pains. So we've got their fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations. Then we're like, where do they want to get to? Or what are you really good at helping them with? And then we put together this methodology that takes them from where they are to where they want to be. And on that journey, you're going to have milestones and strategies that you take them through. Now, we call this your signature system. Okay, your signature system is a very high view of everything that you can do with your client to transform their world. Then what we do is we take the signature system and we first deliver it as one-to-one advisory. Now you can do compliance plus advisory, you can do advisory on its own, and offshore, outsource, or get somebody else to be your accountant or bookkeeper. That's totally up to you. But we start with one-on-one advisory because we test the signature system in the market. Now, the one-on-one advisory can be split up into VIP days. It could be split up into a 90-day program, or it could be something that you get clients to commit to for 12 months or 3 years. Okay. The other thing that you can do with this signature system is you can take a strategy from it and turn it into a VIP day. And Monica is a really good example of that, because what she did is she took her first strategy for her signature system and sold it for £1,500 for a one-day VIP. Now, £1,500 doesn't sound a great deal of money, but actually for one day, which by the way is like 10 till 4 with a lunch break and a couple of breaks in it, isn't a great deal of time. And once you've delivered that once, you can deliver it many, many times. And that equals really good income. Now, the VIP day then means that people can go on and buy your bigger signature system after that. So that's kind of getting paid to show how awesome you are. You can also do group programs and masterminds, memberships, and DIY products, but it all has to have your signature methodology in the middle. And the signature methodology isn't something that you wake up and go, oh, I'm going to have like 5 things in it. It's tested, it's hard, it's tried. Like Ross has done this with me, and it's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of delving deep. It's your experience, it's your education, it's who you are, it's where you feel comfortable. It's, do we add in stuff that you don't feel comfortable about, knowing that you can morph into that. It's very, it stretches you, but also empowers you and shows you the value that you have. And when you uncover that, that means that you then start to charge your value and not your worth, because worth is subjective. Now, if you do the one-to-one advisory and VIP days, that's high access to you. If you then move into things like masterminds, memberships, and do-it-yourself products where you're not even showing up, that's high leverage, okay? So this is the productized practice model, and it has the signature system at the heart of it. Has anyone got any questions? Let me just have a look. I know I'm going really fast, but I only have like 10 minutes. So
Can I just say you're fine on time? Yeah, you're absolutely fine on time, Amanda. One thing I would ask is, do you think there's a certain level of client they have to have reached to be able to offer the advisory? So, for example, when you're working with a lot of startups, for example, or very new businesses or sole traders, if you said to them, I can teach you something, but it's going to be £1,500 for the course or the day or whatever, most of them would fall off their seat and go, yeah, thanks for that. See you next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always counteract this. I feel I'm a really good example of someone who would be a really good client in spite of being a startup. So when I first started my business, I was on housing benefit. I think I've told you that before, I think, Donna. I was on housing benefit and I was stuck. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to get clients that would pay me well. Exactly the same problems I now help everybody else with, right? It's the journey I've been on. And I had the opportunity to join a course. It cost me £7,200. I was on housing benefit at the time. Okay.
Wow.
So my answer, and the reason why I feel so strongly about this is because I have done it. And when people come to me and go, startups won't pay, I will always say, get the right person with the right mindset. They will pay. And also you've got to be able to articulate your value. So if I said to you, Donna, give me $5,000 and I'll give you 50 grand, would you give me $5,000? Right. Yeah. Okay. So then it's the framing of the money. Okay. Now I was lucky. Because I was under the cosh and because I needed to make it work in that program I worked really hard and I made 100K in 9 months and got myself off housing benefit because I had a gun to my head, right? It was like, if you don't make this work, Amanda, you're going to be stuck for the rest of your life. So I worked 10 times harder than everybody else. So when we're looking at ideal client, yes, it's great to look at niching. Yes, it's really good to look at the transformation, but also look at the person. And the person who buys compliance from you is probably not the person that's going to buy advisory from you. Okay. Right. Because they're buying a different thing and they're investing in something different. And the reason why so many people struggle to make advisory work is because they're trying to sell it like compliance. They are relying on referrals. They're probably pricing cheap. They're not articulating it as the transformation. They're articulating it in, we will do this. Nobody wants to do anything, right? They want the transformation. So that's really, really important. And what we have to always look at doing is, if someone's going to give you 25 grand, for example, and some of my clients earn that. I have one client that charges $72,000 a year to work with her. She's works with non-profits. Okay. Yeah. So this is all about our money mindset. This is all about our money mindset. This is a whole different thing, right? But proper person, Karen, Ross has probably sat in the same room as Karen, may even have heard her say this. Like, these aren't made up numbers. She charges $6,000 a month for her advisory CFO work. Okay. That's it. That's more than most people who sell compliance earn with 100 clients.
Yeah.
So she couldn't do that before. What we did is we productized, we uncovered her education, her experience, exactly everything that is inside of her, and turned it into something. And then that something can be turned into books, products, it can be memberships, it can be one-on-one advisory. I don't want people to get scared by the books and the products, because that comes after many years of thinking and delivering. What we want to do is sell the one-on-one advisory, and you only need 10 to 20 of those, paying you 1 to 2K a month, and it's transformed your world. So okay. Does that answer your question, darling?
Perfectly, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so let's talk about the depths of relationships, because this is really important. Doesn't matter how great your product is, if you don't have clients stay for a long time, you're constantly going to be fighting and marketing and stressing and like constantly having to replace people. People have an average time that they spend with their coach is about 8 months. Okay, that's the average time that someone spends with a coach. Now, when I talk about advisory, you're competing with coaches. So that's what I want you to understand. What I have found for me is my clients stay with me for years. So they'll do my leverage program, they'll move into momentum. The ones who move into momentum tend to stay with me for years. If they leave after leverage, they've got what they need, and then they go off and implement it themselves, because some people need a quick problem solved, some people need support for longer. Okay. But the thing that keeps my momentum clients is the depth of my relationships. And the reason why it works so well is for these 4 things, okay, so which I'm going to be sharing with you. So the 4 pillars of real relationships is sustained attention. All right. So this is where, when you're working with, this is why AI can't do advisory. So when you're working with your clients, you think about clients in between conversations. You hold what's going on in their mind. You worry about them. You think about them. I've got one client who is wanting to get some bookkeeping clients because she's struggling a little bit personally. So I have in my mind, every time I speak to somebody from a certain place, I need to refer them to her. So I'm constantly thinking about her. That then means that she gets referrals from me because I'm thinking about her. And she then goes, oh, Amanda cares, right? That's the thing. And it's that feeling that someone cares about you, that relationship, that gets people to stay with you for a really long time. AI is only existing when you're using it. So if you've got one of your clients using AI to try and get advice, it's going to be very reactive, not actually understanding the situation of that person. So this is why it's so important. Then we've got context over time. So you understand the people in front of you, you understand their patterns, their triggers, what they really mean when they say, oh, I'll think about doing that, because we know that that then means, well, I know if someone says, oh, I'll think about it, I'll go, okay, tell me a blockage, what's going on? And it could be time, it could be that they don't understand it, it could be that they're scared, but Claude won't do that. Claude will tell you to do something and he'll go, do this. And you'll go, okay, I'll think about it. And he'll go, okay, have fun. And that's it, right? So that's what we need to understand, is this is why the moat is the thing that stops AI and competitors and everything coming into your world. Then we've got attunement and empathy. And this one's really important because I can read the room. So if I stop sharing my screen, I'd be able to see everybody's faces, and I'd be able to go, who's listening, who's writing, who's interested, who's tuned out, who's ignoring me, all of that. I can read the room, and I can feed off what your faces are doing and the way that you're acting and how you're sitting to adjust my approach in what I'm saying. And the ability to be able to do that is what enables you to impact your clients. And Claude can't do that. ChatGPT can't do that. In America, you've got Perplexity, right? Can't do it. So what we want to do to enable us to have success with our clients is really get good at these 4 pillars of real relationships. It's less about you sitting there going, here's a cash flow forecast, and more about, how are you? That's all you need to say. How are you? And I had a message from someone who's been listening to my podcast for years. She's not a client. Her name's Amy. She's based in New Zealand. She sent me a message on Monday saying, I've learned so much from your podcast and I've been implementing it. I sat with a client today in an advisory session and they cried, and I sorted them out. And they said that I was amazing, as in she was amazing, and it is life-changing. And it wasn't about what she did in the room to do with the numbers. It was the fact that she held the room. Does that make sense? So that's the importance of the attunement, the empathy, the being present. And then we've got vulnerability and trust. So real relationships require mutuality, and both parties have to say that they've made mistakes and they've shared their fears. So when you ask me that question, actually, and we didn't plant you asking me that question, but you're asking me a question, Claude would go, don't be silly, just charge more. I'm going, actually, let me share an example of how I was a startup and I invested that. So that's me being vulnerable because I'm showing you the mess that I was in 15 years ago. And then me saying, look, I had to do it. And if your clients don't want to do it, then just move on to the client that does want to do it, because that makes such a difference. Okay. So they're the 4 pillars of real relationships. So let's go. We've got sustained attention, context over time, attunement and empathy, and vulnerability and trust. Okay. So what questions have we got? What have people got from that? I'm not going to go anymore. I've got loads more I could go into. If people want to find out more about that, actually, let me grab the link for the book. Unless you've got it to hand, have you, Donna?
No, sorry, I was too
that's okay.
busy
That's all right. Let me grab it. No, that's fine. if you haven't got a question, can you put no question in the chat box, just so that we're not all staring at each other going, has anyone got a question? If you haven't got a question, write no question.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
And sorry for interrupting. You described how people are supposed to manage their business and how they're supposed to interact with their clients, which I'm assuming is applicable to any kind of business, not necessarily accountants only. Now, what would your advice be in the case when we're dealing with a customer that it's not the right customer for us? It's what you describe as the vampire customer that sucks the energy out and makes the work unnecessarily difficult. What would your advice be on that?
So I'm always a big believer that the vampire clients are literally ruining your life. They are sucking the energy out of you. And I can guarantee that if you've got a true vampire client, they don't just affect you at work. They probably affect your team. They probably affect your wife, your husband, your children, everything, because they drive you completely nuts and you're thinking about them all the time. I know I've woken up in the middle of the night thinking about a client, not in a good way, but in a bad way, right? So the job is to go, this is a list of all of my vampire clients. And then if you are really worried financially, because it's very easy for me to sit here and go, oh, get rid of your clients, right? Because I'm in a place where if that happened, it would be okay. But what I would say is get a good client in, charge them well, provide a great service, make sure you've got a good relationship with them, and get 2 vampire clients out. Get a good client in, 2 vampire clients out. That way you feel safe and secure.
All right, okay, fantastic, thank you. And one more, if that's all right with you. Do you follow any particular patterns or templates with regards to client communication? Is there something that you could recommend with regards how often, what platforms to use, and what would you communicate on?
Yeah, so it depends on your ideal client. Okay, I have a business coach myself. So all of us should have coaches if we're going to step into advisory, because we learn so much from our coaches, right? So I have a business coach myself, and he says to me that I should be emailing my clients 5 times a day. A day. Okay. Yes. Right. Because most people don't open their emails. My ideal clients are accountants and bookkeepers and business advisors. If I email you 5 times a day, you're going to cancel me. It would be horrendous. I would drive you nuts. Yeah. So what we have to do is go, who's our ideal client and what will they tolerate? Okay. And also, where do they hang out? But we also have to look at your ability to give great customer service and where that happens. So there's lots of different things that we have to take into consideration. My clients know that I'm terrible at admin. If they email me, it could get lost. And the best way to communicate is through a platform that I have, that I use, which is called School. And some of you might have heard of that, SKOOL. It's where I host my programs. It's where my team and I all communicate with our clients. We very rarely use email, okay? All communication is done through there. What I would say is another thing with advisory is WhatsApp is quite good, because it's easy to communicate there, and you can share stuff that shouldn't be shared in other, like via iMessage or something like that, right? So WhatsApp's quite good, but you need to go, who's your ideal client? What do you enjoy using? What will you be able to not ignore and keep an eye on them? And where can you build a community? Because, by the way, relationships are really easy to develop if you have a community of people. A bit like Donna's done, right? Donna and Al, they've got this community here. That is about relationships. So
fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great questions. Thank you. Is my own coach your accountant? No. So I have a business coach that helps me with my marketing and sales. And then my bookkeeper is my advisor. Okay.
Oh,
my
wow.
bookkeeper is my advisor. She's awesome, like absolutely amazing. And she gives me most of my advice. So this is a good answer for you, Jarrett. We use Slack. So I've met her at Accountex a few times. We see each other once a year, but most of it is done. It's called asynchronous coaching, and it's done through Slack. And like today, I must have sent her 3, I must have driven her mad today, 3 messages already. It's like, can I buy my Apple Watch through the business? Can I buy a radio? Like all these things. It's like, what can I do? And she's like giving me advice and showing me. And then she's like, right, you need to get your insurance sorted. You need to do this. And all of it is done asynchronously through Slack, which works really well because I have an idea. I don't have to wait to talk to her. It's a beautiful relationship and it's with my bookkeeper. So yeah, it's nice. It's a nice relationship. There's a couple of others. My favorite line is, if you don't know someone, you can't help them apart from how are you? Yeah. What other killer questions do you share with accountants to help open up their clients? Right. So I talk about the 3 conversations. Who asked that question? Sorry.
That was me.
Claire. Yeah, Claire. I talk about there's 3 conversations every one of you should be having. It's the strategy conversation, the future conversation, and the money conversation. Okay, so the strategy conversation is things like what is working now? What are you looking at? What are your plans? Like, what's going on for you in your business? What do you think that you want to achieve in the next 3 months? Okay, the future conversation is, are we exiting? Are we building for time? Are we building for freedom? All that kind of thing. And then the money conversation, I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs. You know the ones to have for the money conversation. Sorry, go on.
So my question was more born out of, I think all of what you've said is amazing and it's absolutely on the money. And it all ties back to that personal conversation about their actual life, because the business is the vehicle for them being able to achieve anything. And actually, I think the moat is, as a business owner, I might have a butcher shop, and the butcher shop is doing so well that Claude tells me, Claire, you're doing so well, you need to get another shop. And if I listen to Claude, I could get another shop. But what Claude doesn't know is that I'm stressed the eyeballs. I'm working 100 hours a week. My relationships are all failing because of this. My kids don't know who I am, and I feel like so that's where the human moat comes in, because the accountant would say, Claire, don't even think about that. Let's get a process where we can take you out of your business before we even look at scaling and getting another one. And I think that's where the defensive moat is, but it comes back to that personal conversation, which in my experience, accountants being typically quite introverted, they struggle with. They struggle to ask personal questions because they feel like they're overstepping, that it's not their place. And what I'd like to really understand is how you share other questions that get that conversation going, because it's not easy to go from tax and compliance to tell me about your big dark, deep hairy moment.
But we don't want to do that. So what we would do, so if I give you an example, Claire, is like, hey Claire, how you doing? Like,
and everyone says I'm fine.
Yeah, you're fine. That's great. What have you got planned for the summer? Are you off on holiday?
Yep, going away to Spain.
Going to Spain. Amazing. Are you going with, have you got children? Have you got any children?
Yep, one. He's 17 yesterday.
17. Oh, is he going away with you?
Yes, we still get a couple of years, I think, until we're too boring.
Yeah, is he off to uni, or what's his plans?
No idea.
No idea. Oh my gosh. Right. Okay. So I'm going to assume you're running an accounting practice. I'll pretend you're an accountant, right? So we're having this conversation because you came to me for help with your business. You've mentioned that you've got a son. Did you start your business because you wanted to have a family and you wanted to help the family? What was your reason for starting the business?
Just sort of fell into it, really. I was working for a bigger firm. I didn't really like the direction of travel. They were a little bit, pilot high, sell it cheap type thing. And actually, I want to deliver a more specialized service to my clients.
Amazing. How's that going?
I think it's going okay.
What does okay mean?
Okay means probably room for improvement, but I'm doing all right. I'm paying my bills. I've not got loads left at the end of the month, but it's ticking along.
Yeah. So what I would do now, Claire, if you weren't in public and it wasn't going on YouTube, is I would delve deeper into that. I'd be like, do you mind if I ask you a couple of more personal questions? And then I'd be asking you things like, so how much money do you take home? And, are you in your dream home, or would you like to get another home? And if your son doesn't know what he's doing, would you like to be able to put him through uni, or, what are your plans? And I would go deeper I do this on my sales calls, right? This is before people become a client. I get clear on why they're doing what they want to do. That then gives us the opportunity to go, hey, what's been really clear is that you've started your business because you wanted to make an impact, and you're maybe impacting your clients, but not in the way you want to. You're maybe paying your bills, but it's not impacting your family the way you want it to. So this is how I can help you. And then you go into that, okay? The key with it is to really try and get people to open up. And it's difficult because everybody's watching and this is going to be public. But if it was you and me, I would be having a slower, deeper conversation with you. Okay.
Yeah.
And also because we're practicing, you're aware that that's what I'm doing. If you had a
oh yeah, of course. No, I realise
you would have been like more open to that. So the thing is about asking the right questions. If you are with a client and you wanted to sit with them and have a proper advisory conversation, I would recommend the GROW model, which is what are your goals? What are the obstacles? What's your current reality? Other way around, GROW, G-R, reality, obstacles, and then what's the way forward? So what are the actions that we're going to do to go through that? And that's episode 19 of my podcast, Business Advisor Podcast, that goes through that in depth. But the questions that I was asking you would be before someone becomes a client, because if we're going to sell them advisory, we need to know that they need advisory. Once they've signed up, then what you do is you go, right, you've come to me to help you grow your business or save taxes or whatever it is. We have to get to the nitty-gritty. So I'm going to ask you lots of questions. All right. So in my book, I don't know if you've signed up to get a copy of it, but in my book, I go through the 3 different kinds of conversations: the future, the relationship, and the strategic. Not relationship, sorry, the future, the financial, and the strategic. And I've given you examples of questions there as well that will help. Oh my God, look at the time, Donna.
I know. You've got one question left. We've got 1 minute and one question, which is still in the thing from Josh, which says, you mentioned several key ways to deal with AI as a threat. If you had to choose just one, what would be the single most important action you'd counter it with?
Care. Like AI is only a threat if you just use it as a tool, right? The easiest way for me to counter AI is to care about the person in front of me. And I'll leave you with what happened on Friday. I very clearly said in the room to my clients, there were about 15, 16 people in the room. And I said, why, you could very easily go to YouTube, learn how to do webinars. You could Google anything I tell you. And so why are you in this room? And they said, because I trust you, Amanda. I want your way of doing it. I know you're like ahead of the curve and I listen to you. And that's relationships. That's it. That's relationships in a nutshell. That's what will future-proof you.
Confessions of an Accountant, where no topic is off the ledger.